I'm Nazneen Contractor, and you are watching and listening to Two Mics Up.
Oh,
Double O 007.
what's up, everybody? Happy Monday. It's your man, Dame, DNYDC. This is Two Mics Up, back with another special episode. And today's guest joining me on the other mic, man, this woman is really incredible. Not only coming from a space and place with a unique background that she brings to her acting career, but she really stands out when you see her on screen. And I'm really excited to dive in to really find out more about her. You've seen her in films and things like Star Trek Into Darkness, Star Wars Resistance, Spiral, 24, and I can keep going on and on and on and on. That's how deep, her breadth of work has been in the industry to date. And I haven't even talked about anything new yet. And we're going to get into that. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together and please welcome to the stage and the other mic today's guest, the wonderful, the beautiful, the Nazneen Contractor. Nazneen, how are you doing today?
I am all the better for being with you. I
Well,
am.
well,
I can't think of a better way to start the week.
thank you so much. I'm really excited. I think I just tipped the iceberg on your breadth of work because you started out, from what I understand, in theater.
That's
You've
right.
been in ballet as a
Yeah.
ballerina and a dancer. And I mean, I'm just really tipping that iceberg. But I have to start at the beginning, Nazneen. Like,
hmm
who is Nazneen Contractor, the person? When she's not really giving her talents to us on the screen or on stage.
Um, the Nazanin now that you're talking to is a mother of two, and that
Okay.
keeps me very, very busy. I have a 12-year-old and a 6-year-old, soon to be 13 and 7.
Wow.
So when I'm not working, I am the mom who is making the lunches and, just being a mom, doing the pickups, doing the homework, the tutoring, this, that, whatever, ferrying them to various extracurricular activities that seem to be growing every year. And you know what? I actually find so much joy in that. Much,
Mm,
much more. I mean, I thought I always wanted to have kids when I was younger, and and then I had them, and I just feel like it's given me so much more to live for.
yeah.
Truly, I mean, it sounds
Yeah.
cliche, but I'm an actor. I married another actor. Our lives pre-kids were just all about us. It was
Right.
all about us. When are we
Right.
working? When are we not working? Oh, we're not working. Let's go to Thailand. Let's do this. Let's do that. There was just, and I'm so happy we had it.
Right.
I'm really grateful for that experience. But it was almost like, it almost felt, it was so freeing. It felt unstable. If that's what
Unstable.
it,
Yeah.
it did. It just felt like, I was just living, but also like biding my time for that next job and that next
Mm,
experience. And now having kids has just completely put a different focus and direction in my life, as it does with most people, right? And
right.
work becomes something that I still love with all of my heart and soul, obviously, but it becomes, more than just work. It's like a way to provide for my
My
family.
family. Yeah.
And the biggest takeaway is that now when I don't get a job, right? Um, the consolation prize, there used to be no consolation prize. There used to be no
Right.
consolation prize for coming in second place or anything like that in the audition process.
Right.
But now the consolation prize is, I'm home with my kids.
I love that.
And
I love that.
that is so, it makes you forget the pain and the remorse so quickly,
Yeah.
because not only because you have something to be someone to be responsible for, take care
Responsible
of, but
for.
also they bring so much joy. There's
Mm,
so much more to it.
I
It's
love that.
deepened my perspective, and I'm so grateful for them. I really
I
am.
love that. I
I
mean,
am.
it sounds like it gives you a very a groundedness, if you will, to
Yeah.
you and to your purpose of all these things that you've been able to do so far and experience. But now it's full circle, right? And
Yeah.
you find maybe some of the things that your parents maybe said to you as a young
Oh,
child,
totally.
and
Oh my God.
totally right.
Oh my
So
God.
now it plays back, right? For
100%.
you, and
100%.
even in that, like transitioning, like, do you have a boy and a girl,
I
or
do. I have an older boy and a younger girl.
so now transitioning back or harkening back, like how in the opening when I was talking about being a ballerina and being in dance and theater, do you see any of that, or does your daughter specifically take any of that from you? Do you see any of that where she has that talent or that want for the stage and dancing?
Well, I mean, so that's a pretty big question. So basically, so my son is definitely like he got like the best of my husband and I. He is actually, we do a show together called Children Ruin Everything. He plays my son on the show.
Okay,
So
okay.
he started that job when he was 8. He's now 12. It was
Wow.
his first time ever auditioning for anything professionally. It was his first time ever being on screen, and of course he
Hmm?
booked it. And we did 4 seasons together, and
Wow.
that was really, really, it was stressful and nerve-wracking because I was also starting the show. It was like a brand new show. We did 6 episodes in the first season, and there was just a lot to negotiate on top of that. Making sure my son was understood what was going on, and making sure that he knew what his cue line was, and like just being his mom, and at the
Right,
same time
right.
trying to like be in a scene. So I think by the end of the 4 seasons, I really got the hang of that work-life balance. It was kind of
Balance, yeah.
art imitating life. But
Right.
he's definitely a very creative guy. He is really into he makes films all the time. He's in
Okay.
a film club. He wants to write a script over American Thanksgiving with me.
All right.
He's into writing now. Yeah, so he's definitely like a very creative guy. He loves to act. I think he found 4 seasons of being on that show. It's hard when you're a kid because you're
Yeah.
tutoring and this and that. So, and it's very repetitive. So I
Right.
think that was, I was actually kind of relieved. He was like, I don't know if I want to be an actor. I'm like, oh, thank God. Please, please go get a real job. Please, someone get a real job in the family. Anything. But I think that, but he still loves it. And of course, I mean,
Right.
he's both his parents to it. Now, my daughter, she's much younger, but she's hilarious. Like she actually has, as she's growing up, I realized she has more of a motor for acting than any of
Okay.
us. Like
Oh,
she
really? Okay.
really, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. And and I haven't really, you know, she's little, right? So I'm not like
Mm-hmm.
pushing her one way or the
One
other.
or
But
the
of
other,
course,
yeah.
any interest she has, like she's very artistic. She takes art classes, and she takes music classes, and she takes a tap dancing class, and she takes a theater class. Like she needs to just discover what she likes. But yeah, I think it's hard for me to say, do my kids want to become actors, because both their parents are actors. It's all they really know.
Right. Right.
Right.
Right. Right. Well, I mean,
But this last season, sorry, it was so funny. I was putting her to bed one night, and she understood. She was only like 2 when the show started, so she didn't really understand what
understand.
Gerard and I were doing for Children Ruin Everything. And so this season, I was putting her to bed, and the way the contract works out is like I fly up. We shoot it in Toronto. I live in LA, and then they fly up Darius, my son. But because I work more than he does, they fly up my husband with him, because like he's the
Okay.
chaperone, and
That's
then they fly
wrong.
up my
Yeah.
daughter because she's
Right. Right.
be alone. So the whole family comes up, which is wonderful. So I was, the night before I was leaving, they were going to join me in, I think, 2 weeks time. And I was putting her to bed, and she said, Mommy, how Darius is on the show with you? I said,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And she was like, I've been giving it a lot of thought, and I think I should be on the show now.
Uh-oh.
And I'm ready. I'm ready to be on the show, Mom. And you need to talk to the producers. That's what
Make
she
it
said.
happen.
You need to talk to the producers, and you need to make it happen.
Make
And
it happen. That's right.
I was like, I mean, yes, there is a certain amount of nepotism in this show, but I don't know if that can actually happen.
I love it.
I know. And she did come to set, which is great, because she never really came. I was on a show when she was born in Hungary, in Budapest. So she was a baby.
Wow.
So she doesn't remember coming on set there. And then COVID happened, and no one was allowed to come on set. She was born at the end of 2017. So this was like the first set she visited. And it was really, I think it was really great for her to see her brother working and me working. But what I was also so relieved about is that she had no interest to do it. Like once she got there and she saw all the sets, she was like, I'm ready to leave. Because it's boring.
Okay.
It's boring.
Yeah, she was like, okay. It sounded good. The story sounded good. Maybe the conversation at home sounded good.
Yeah,
Put me in, coach, and then okay, yeah, never mind. This is not for me. I'm not.
exactly,
I,
exactly.
I love it.
And she had no she's very like, she doesn't really like when she makes up her mind about something, no one can influence her. So I was so relieved. I was like, oh my God.
She's sticking to it. She's thinking, this is hers. This is my belief. This is my thought. And this is my interpretation. Can't talk her out of it. I love
Exactly.
it.
But she
I
she
love it.
takes a theater class and she loves it. And of course she excels in dramatics at school and she's just an outgoing
Awesome.
kid, right? So
Awesome. That is so awesome, Nazneen. And speaking of working, and if just taking a moment to really reflect on your career, so, you've been in things like the border,
mhm.
and I don't want to say 24 as
That's
I think it
right.
was Kayla. You played Kayla
Yeah, from
in 20.
right.
Yep.
Yeah.
And just reflecting on that, like sometimes experiences, shape, your approach,
Yeah.
to acting once you land, because just getting to the point of landing the role is already
Mhm.
one thing. But
Yeah.
once you landed those roles, like what type of approach did you use in really bringing those characters to life? Because they really
Mhm.
stood out, in each forum. So how did you approach each one?
So I come from the theater. I actually started my career. I mean, I started working professionally as an actor around the age of 17. I went to a really amazing performing arts high school in Etobicoke in Toronto. And it really was a very incredible curriculum that they offered in the drama program there when I was there. I mean, to the point where when I went to my first year of university at the University of Toronto, I had read the entire syllabus for
Mm,
Drama 101 and everything because we had such an amazingly comprehensive theoretical and practical approach to acting at the Etobicoke School of the Arts. So that was like definitely where I started to hone my skills of performing and rehearsal and um, putting together productions. And then I started at that school as a dance major
oh
because
wow.
many years I was a ballerina and I actually auditioned for both. And I just, because I always had these like grand ideas of being an actress since I can remember. I mean, younger than my daughter, but
Wow.
I was okay. I mean, I guess I wasn't very good because I auditioned for both and I only got in for dance. And then I took drama as a minor and I got to know all the drama teachers. And then I switched majors in grade 10, which doesn't actually happen that often at that
Right.
school.
Right.
Because the dance people because I was actually a very very strong dancer and not everyone in that school was a great dancer, but there were a
Hmm.
lot of really great actors, there were really great singers, a lot of really great musicians, but the dancing was like they would take people who had never danced before because they had potential.
Mm,
When they people who had
okay.
like years and years of training, they didn't really want to let them go.
Gotcha.
But I talked to them. I said, look, I came here for drama and I dance outside of school all the time still, and I really want to I want to develop this other skill. So they let me change. I really learned a lot there. Then after my first year of university, I answered an open call at Stratford. I'd done a couple of television roles before that, like a recurring and a couple of guest stars as a teen. Um, and my agent at the time then sent me for an open call at the Stratford Shakespeare Festival. It's now called. It used to be called just the Stratford Company,
Hmm.
and I ended up booking the lead role in a Shakespearean play called
Wow.
Pericles that played on the main stage. And I had never
Right.
done professional theater in my life, and I had never done Shakespeare in my life. And I just was in the right place at the right time. And this director, Leon Rubin, he was from England, and he really wanted to bring colorblind casting, which had been in England for
Hmm.
decades,
Hmm.
to Canada, which
Okay.
was even though Canada is such a beautiful multicultural place,
Yeah.
there were certain institutions that were still
Yeah.
quite conservative, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So he wanted to really he wanted to tell that story through traveling through Asia. It's about
I
the
love that.
protagonist Pericles travels in strange and distant lands. So he said it through Southeast Asia,
That's
so
pretty
like
interesting.
India, Thailand, Bali. He wanted this Indian girl to play the
Right.
princess,
Right.
and I got cast in that, and that was probably the biggest learning curve of my career because
Wow.
I literally I got to rehearsals in March, and we opened in May. So we had
Wow.
6 weeks of rehearsal, and I remember I did the read through, and I felt like a complete imposter.
Wow.
I did. I
Wow.
was like, oh my God, these people are
That was
so good.
so. Yeah, I mean that's a real condensed time frame
Yeah.
to
Oh,
really,
but it's normal. Actually, 6 weeks is a luxury in theater, right? Like
really.
yes, of course. It's my
Mm.
gardens. But it's like, so I felt like this total fraud. And I was so like, I learned all my lines before I came in. I'm
Mhm.
like, I don't know what I'm doing. So I better like
Right.
learn these lines and figure it out. And, I was just so fortunate because I had this director and I looked at him after the read through, like, I think he could just see it in my face. I mean, I was 20 years old, and he was like, don't worry. He's like, just
It'll
do
be
what
all
they
right.
tell you to do,
It'll
and
be
I'll
all
get you
right.
there. And
I
that's
love
what I
that.
did. I literally just put myself at his mercy. I did. That's the only thing I could do. I was like, I'm just going to do everything he tells me to do. And, at Stratford, they have an amazing voice staff, and they have the movement coaches, and they have all these people that come and help you. And, that ended up being like the best reviewed play of the year, got best play of the year by many,
Right.
many critics. It ended up being this
I love
smashing
that.
success. I know, it was amazing. It was amazing. And then I did their conservatory. They have a training program where they pay actors to train, and they basically
Yep.
give you a crash course in classical theater. So
Wow.
that is what I really call my foundation of training. Like, you would do mime work and they'd send someone from Lecoq in Paris, and you would do Commedia dell'arte and they'd send someone from Italy to come and train with you for a week. And, it was this really intense course. But ultimately, all of those things were great practice and were amazing for my resume and great experience. But the truth is, I went back and did another season at Stratford with that same director. He was back. We did a Midsummer Night's Dream, and he was like, you need to forget everything you learned. He's like, I hired you. He's like, don't show me your training. He's like, I hired you because you have instincts, because your instincts are spot on. Do not let the training cloud your instincts. And then, that was like a big transition. And then I ended up leaving. I got a third season there, but I ended up booking a pilot in LA that didn't get picked up. And that was a completely crazy experience because it was an entirely improvised pilot. There was no script. And it was by the guy who writes for Sacha Baron Cohen. So we were an Indian family that was traveling through the Bible Belt of America, telling people that they were participating in a documentary on culturalization of immigrants. And we would say, like, and just basically do what Borat does and what Ali G did. And like, we would have to say these insane things to real people and get it on camera. It was crazy. So talk about having to rely on your instincts and how to read a room. Like, I got a crash course in that. It didn't get picked up. I came back. I ended up booking The Border. And so then I had like a real mishmash of experience by the time I got to The Border. But I still didn't have real on-camera training. And I think that The Border, from season 1 to season 2, I watched season 1. I don't know if I've ever admitted this to anyone publicly.
Well, shit. Well,
I
let's
watched
talk.
season 1, and I was just so disappointed in my work.
Really?
I just felt like, I felt all of these things when I was doing this role, and they weren't being translated on screen. And I'm like, I actually don't, acting for the camera is a different technique. It is. Some people, maybe it comes more naturally to than others. It doesn't come naturally to me, obviously, right? Or it didn't at the time. Now, of course, it's like I could do it anytime. But so I actually went to acting class. I went and studied with this wonderful teacher. He's no longer with us, named David Rotenberg in Toronto. At the encouragement of my then boyfriend, now husband, Carlo Rota, who studied with him for many years.
Right.
And he was like, okay, and I went to David and I'm like, look, he's like, what are you doing? You're a series regular show. You're the female lead of the show. I'm like, I feel like I'm not, I don't know how to give it. I don't know how to give it in a medium shot. I don't know how to give it in a close up. I don't know what, like, I need to be aware of what I'm doing with my face. Like, I just feel, and I need to know, like, he really taught me that, like, if you think it, it'll show. Like, you don't have to do anything else, and that is something that's really hard to understand as an actor. And it's like in that stillness, while still being dynamic. And so I went and took this like basically really intense crash course. Also, I was still studying in school at the same time at U of T. I would study in between my seasons, and I would go at night to this acting class. And then I really felt like in season 2, I finally I found her.
Like
And
click.
yeah, and I just felt like, and I was so pleased because they had like a season 2 premiere party. And, I brought Carlo with me, and, he just watched one scene. It was like this really intense interrogation. And he looked at me and he was like, "Oh, you're a completely different actress." Like, he's like, and I was like, "Oh my God, it worked."
That's it.
And
That's
then,
it.
and that was really, really, that was very formative training that I then
Mm.
took into 24. So, the comparisons between Layla Hourani on The Border and
Mhm.
Kayla Hassan on 24. I mean, there were some very obvious,
Obvious, right?
like they were both Muslim.
Right.
They said that Kayla was Muslim, but I mean, essentially she was. And they were both ethnic. Kayla spoke with an accent, Layla didn't.
Didn't. Yep.
And they both had to juggle these perceptions of what
Right.
society expected of them, what their
Right.
family expected of them, and who they were.
Right.
And what I was really grateful for in The Border is that, they wanted to create this Muslim cop who, is his dad is like a flag waving Canadian,
Right.
and they wanted to sort of challenge the stereotype of what it means to be Muslim. This is what, like 2004. It was a long,
Yeah.
I don't
Long time
remember,
ago.
right?
Yeah.
Long
Mhm.
time ago, right?
Mhm.
Very different now.
Right.
And so, and they actually hired a Muslim consultant. He was a professor of Islamic studies at U of T, and
Mhm.
we sort of became this. We sort of formed an alliance, and anytime there would be writing that would be very, stereotypical or
Mhm.
kind of I'm just trying to think of the right word without insulting anyone. Just
I think you hit
you
it. Like,
know,
it was just the
it's just
stereotypes
stereotypical. Yeah, I would be
you
like,
hit it.
I would ask them, be like, why do you want me to say that? Like, didn't you
Right.
create this character to say something else?
Yeah. To give it a
Like,
little more.
how do you want to represent Islam? Do you want to represent
Something
Islam
right.
by me saying, "Oh, I should be a good girl," or do you want to represent Islam being like, Islam is a religion of love?
Right.
Where is
Right.
that
Like,
conflict going to come from? If you
right.
want her to have conflict with her religion and what she does, then let's have it come from a very deeper place
Deeper
of
place. Right.
Islam, that people understand Islam, that people don't
Right.
necessarily understand Islam, like
Right.
the capitalism of like charity and
I
and
agree.
prayer and love,
Give it some
and
depth.
all of those things.
Yeah.
Yes.
Give it a depth.
And
Yeah.
and they did it. They did it
Mm.
to their
I love that.
to
To
their
their
credit.
best.
They did do it.
Mhm.
And then I got to 24, and that was amazing because there's so many Canadians on that show. And my husband was on that show. He
I
played
love
Morris
it.
O'Brien for many years. So like
Okay.
it was a warm room for me anyways,
Okay.
because they all loved
Okay.
him. He wasn't in that
Okay.
season, unfortunately, but
Okay.
we have worked together. But that was great. That was a really interesting experience because I was actually originally only supposed to be in 2 episodes. I ended up doing 22 episodes.
Yeah, you was
They
there.
only
Regular.
had, like, when I joined the show, they only had figured out the first 8 episodes.
Oh wow.
They didn't, because they don't know how it's really gonna click and how everyone's gonna be
It was gonna be
received. That's why
perceived.
like people just like die off in the middle of the season. Because
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
told them they
Yeah.
get more episodes and like, we'll just pay you, but you gotta go.
Yeah.
Like, because they see how like things are coming together.
Mm.
They're seeing what's
Interesting.
gelling, what's not gelling,
Interesting.
what's rating well, what's not rating
Not.
well. The show is written in real time, and it's like, sorry, the show is it's a real time show, but
Time
it's
show.
actually
Yeah.
kind of like written in real time too,
Wow.
right? So it was never like, we didn't know that like Anil Kapoor, who played my dad, was gonna die.
Right.
And that, like, the woman who played my mom, Nakar, was going to take over, and I was going
Right.
to be with her. I didn't know that I was going to have an affair with the bodyguard.
Right. Right.
I don't think they knew it either until they cast this great guy, and they're like, "Oh, you guys would look amazing together. Let's like
Wow.
write this like Romeo and Juliet story that goes all
I
wrong.
love.
He's actually a great,
I
right?"
love it.
So that was really exciting because you would get the scripts and you actually wouldn't know what you were going to read. And that was like amazing. Like, I would like sit there on my phone. I'd be reading as soon as I got them, no matter what I was. Sometimes I would be driving, and if I was far enough away from home, I would find a place to stop so I could sit down, because I didn't know if I was going to die. Like, you just don't know what's going to happen, right? I mean, apparently they call you before you die, which is a courtesy
Give you a heads
that
up,
not
a
every
courtesy
producer
call.
does. Yeah, before everyone else does, which is not something every producer does. But I remember once they called me, and it was like episode, I don't know, it was halfway through, like episode 12 or 13. And the guy so Mylan Chaloff, who's a Canadian director, who I worked with on a show called Street Time, was my first recurring role ever. I sort of auditioned for him for this role. In fact, he didn't, they were trying to find this role, and then he was like, oh, you're in town, and we all went out to lunch, and then he brought me into audition, and he was like a big champion of me to the rest of the room because they didn't really know who I was. So Mylan calls me, and he directed 10 episodes. Brad Turner directed 10 episodes. Michael Click directed 2, and then another director directed 2. And it was this other director spot, this guest director spot for my episodes, for my big episodes where I get like captured and tortured and all that stuff.
Right.
And Mylan calls me, and he's like, hey, Nazneen, it's Mylan. Call me back. And I'm like, oh my God, they're going to kill me. Okay, well, I've had a great run. Like, I thought I was going to do 2. I've done like 13. It's still like a huge boom to the resume. It's my first job I booked getting off a plane in LA. Like, come on. It's
great.
And I call him and I'm like, hey, Mylan, what's up? He's like, I feel so bad. I can't remember this director's name. He was like, he doesn't really feel comfortable talking to you about this, but because I know you, I thought I'd feel this conversation. Are you okay with us putting a plastic bag over your head to torture you? And I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
Of course. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, oh, I thought I was going to die.
I don't want to die.
I was like, yeah. It's totally fine. It's totally fine.
As many episodes as you want.
Yeah. Electrocute me. Yeah. It's like he thought it was hilarious. I was like, of course. Is there anything else? Yes. Yeah. So those are the conversations you have on 24.
I love it.
But it was great. Everyone was so amazing. That was really their last season until they did like the reiteration in London and this and that. So it's kind of like when I got on, it was like a well-oiled machine.
Yeah, very much so.
And I had this like wonderful experience of working with Anil Kapoor, who's like an Indian superstar.
Yes.
And the way he works, and then like working with these very experienced directors. And Kiefer was just like, we only had like a couple of episodes where we intersected, but he was just like so lovely and so warm and like really kind. And then I ran into him in Cannes, like in 2016, I think. And he was like having a cigarette outside, and I'm like,
hey,
you remember me? But like, I was, and he was like, of course I remember you. And he was like, he's just so sweet, like really nice guy. It's hard. It's a long time to lead like that. And he was awesome. And he wanted to make it the best show. Like there would be sometimes rewrites when he was on set, but there were rewrites because he wanted to make it as good a show as possible. And I think that spoke to the longevity of it and the success of it.
Yeah, I mean, heck of a cast, heck of a crew. I mean,
and it was such a fun show to watch. Like for me,
it really was
because I was like such a fan of the show, and then like
it really was.
And then to get on it, like the writers would come up to me and they'd be like, "Hi, blah blah blah, you're doing such a great job." And I'm like, "I just want to tell you, I'm such a big fan of the show."
I mean, it was
like
incredible.
Totally fangirling out.
It really was. It was an incredible show. It was awesome. Story arc and storyline, and everything that it was just so much going on every week. And I mean, look, we were glued to it. I mean, I definitely remember you, and that was one of the things my wife
clock and
just everything.
It's surreal that like I got off the border and I landed on that show. I mean, like there's every long career. I know I've heard it before, but like there is luck.
Yeah,
there is luck, but luck favors the prepared.
That's right.
It does, but I can't. I mean, I'm so lucky. Like,
but it's like you said though. You went and you really prepared though, because there was parts of your work that you felt wasn't coming through. So you went and put in the work. So like you said,
and luck, I still feel like there are parts. Like I still feel like I have miles to go as an actor. I do, and that's why I love acting, because there is always room to grow and improve. And I am like one of those people who is addicted to like getting better and challenging myself. I cannot, like, I think that it's a good thing and a bad thing. Like I like to I really like to I'm always, and sometimes it's a detriment. Sometimes I was like, okay, like, we're doing an audition, a self-tape. He's like, okay, like this is not going to make or break you getting the job. And I'm like, I really want to get it. I really want to make sure, and constantly learning and constantly having your craft evolve is part of the appeal of this job. It is. Like
it really is.
It is. Like if you're a curious person, if you can take the rejection, if you love it more than anything, then do it.
That makes me think too, like for you, because you have several aspects, TV, film, and stage. Now, which one would you say gives you the most energy or the most excitement? Because I know they're different mediums,
Yeah,
and which one for
I don't
you
know.
gives you that yes, this rush, this is it.
Okay, so definitely I would say, when I was doing Stratford,
Mm-hmm.
I had a house that was like right by there's a river that
Uh-huh.
is in Stratford,
Okay.
Stratford, Ontario, in
Hmm.
Canada, and it has a path around it.
Mm-hmm.
And on the days, and I lived in a house right by the festival theater, the main stage, right in front of the river. It was the last house before the river, so I could
Mm-hmm.
get to the river in like 3 seconds. And in between shows, in between my matinee and my evening performance, on the days that I would have two shows, I would be so high, like so high from the matinee performance, that in order to do the work for the evening performance, I would have to go for a run around the
Wow.
river. And I would, I
Wow.
would, I would come back home so quickly, put on my clothes, and I would run. And I would see people look at me as I ran and be like, wasn't that girl just on
You're
stage?
just on
Because the
stage.
audience would just be coming out. I would just run away after curtain call, and I would do it because
Wow.
it was such a rush. And
Mm-hmm.
I needed to like temper that energy and find that other character that I was playing, because we wouldn't do the
Mm.
same show twice, right? It would always
Right.
be two different shows.
Right.
So either I had to like bring myself down from playing Marina or work myself up to play Marina, but a run would always do it, like a physical
Wow.
run. So I think that the closest I've come to it is doing the multicam
Mm-hmm.
and I've only done them in Los Angeles, like the
Right.
multicam comedy. So that is when they're often comedies,
Mm-hmm.
where you have a live studio audience and you have four cameras and you're doing. So I've done, I did my first one was Rules of Engagement, and then I've done two multicam pilots that unfortunately didn't get picked up. I did the Carmichael show.
Love it.
And I just love that process because first of all, it's the best schedule in Hollywood. Like, one day you just do a read through, then the
Right.
next day you come in at 9 and you rehearse all morning, and then you break for lunch, and then you show it to the writers after lunch, and then you get rewrites, and then the next day you come in and do the rewrites for the morning, break for lunch, show it to the writers and the network the next day, then you come in again with the rewrites, and then you show it to the writers network and studio. Then
Right.
you have a tape night where you do the whole
Whole
thing on
thing.
tape, like a full rehearsal with all the
Right.
cameras. And then you have show night, and at show night you show up at like 3 or something like that, and you go get ready, and then you do, at least on Rules and a bunch of other ones, we would do like an Italian where we'd say the whole show really really fast, and then you go out, and like, it's just like, it was all those
Amazing.
times that I've done it. Oh my god, it sounds like I'm such an addict, but I remember we
It's
did
such
this
an
we did
addict.
this well, listen, because we did this pilot,
Right.
and the guy who played my husband filmed us all backstage before we went out for our
Oh
curtain call.
wow.
And I was like freaking out. I'm like, oh my god, I'm so happy. I'm like, if this feeling could be put into a needle, I would put it into my
Right.
arm every single
Right.
day. I would, because I was so you would just feed off that energy, and the idea of
Energy.
getting an instant laugh, like,
Yeah.
it's totally different. I did, Children Ruin Everything. It's a single camera comedy.
Right.
It's some of the best writing I've ever seen. But like, I don't know if what I'm saying is funny.
It's really funny or not.
Don't like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't, like, it's like, I think it's, I mean, always ends up being great, but like, I mean, it ends up being great because everyone around me is so great at the
Right.
end,
Right.
whatever. But
Right.
like, I'm so unsure,
Sure of
like,
where you are, where you stand in
yeah.
that.
Well,
Yeah.
well, when you do it there and you get that instant laugh or that instant thing,
You
it's
know
like,
exactly it's
oh
funny
my
or not.
god, it's
Yeah.
like,
The
that
energy.
this is what you were put on earth to do. Because
I
like, you feel
love that.
so good from it, you feel so fulfilled from it, like your whole heart is so, it's just bursting with joy. You're
I
like, oh well,
love
nothing gives
that.
me that feeling. I mean, maybe other than my kids now, but like,
I know. I love that. And whew, man, you really kind of take me because I'm thinking of some of the other things that you said, in this conversation, like, because you are an actress, Parsi descent. Am I correct?
yes, I'm a Parsi, so that is
Yeah.
my ethno-religious title. Yeah.
Okay. And with all of the energy, all the highs and the lows, I have to imagine, even as a person of color, you
Yeah.
know, the role or the feeling of responsibility of representing, your culture in a role. Like, how do you navigate? Because I know it has to be a challenge sometimes to navigate that cultural aspect. And I heard you talk about it in your previous characters, but one with today's world that we're living in.
Hmm.
Um, we're finding, so much hate and so much I don't want to say condemnation, but everybody has an opinion on things. How do you value or find value to stay true in yourself and to give that cultural value in the roles that you're working and that is being seen and being heard?
It's a great question. And I think that like it's a twofold answer,
Mm-hmm.
really.
Mm-hmm.
So I think first and foremost, I'm an actor
Mm-hmm.
and I am an actor. So I think I should be able to play anything and everything if I'm a good actor, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm very lucky. I do a lot of voice work and 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 I do a lot of voice work in a lot of different accents because I grew
Mm-hmm.
up all over the world.
Right.
They're original to me. I was born in India. I went to school in London. I lived in Canada. I lived in Los Angeles. I married an Italian. Like I grew up with an Indian accent. I had an English accent. I speak Italian because of my Italian husband. I learned French going to school in Canada. These
Right.
are all parts of my identity
Right.
that I feel. And also there are parts that are not my identity. Like I played Middle Eastern people and put on a Middle Eastern accent
Right.
and I love that. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's fun. I think
Right.
that, and I know that that may not be the most politically correct answer in today's climate, but I really think that like
Understood.
you're an actor and like it should be the best person for the job. Now,
Job.
sometimes that is the person what they are,
Right.
right? And
Right.
sometimes
Right.
it's not,
Right.
right? It's just they happen to be a great actor, right?
Right.
It's like so that's one part of my life that I feel
Yep.
like, that and it's my job to be convincing in whatever I'm doing,
True. True.
and to transcend that you shouldn't just see that, oh, I'm speaking to a Parsi Indian woman. You should be saying I'm speaking to whoever this person is, right?
Exactly. Agreed.
Whatever
Agreed.
it is. I should be creating enough of a full life behind my character that it should matter. Now, the other side of that is that I'm like extremely proud to be a Parsi.
Mm-hmm.
And I was raised that way.
Mm-hmm.
And, my father asked me to always keep my last name because it's a very Parsi last name to have these British professional last names,
Right.
because it was very important to him. So I am, and it's always been like a fantastic talking point too, right? With
Mm-hmm.
producers and directors, like they always find it so fascinating that I belong to this ancient religion of Zoroastrianism. So the only time it's ever been, so there's been twice in my career that it's actually just been used.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, the first time was on Ransom, which is a show that I
That's
did
right.
for CBS.
That was a good
And her name was Zara Halam. And I sat down with
That
the
was a good one.
showrunner, Frank Spot, and it's after I got the job.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, so like, what's like, so he was like, we were talking about the character and the show. And I was like, so what's Zara's religion? Like, what's her thing? Like, her name is Zara Halam.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, well, what are you again? And I was like, oh, I'm a Parsi. I'm Zoroastrian. I'm this and that. He's like, yeah, well, just make her you. And they put it in the show.
Okay.
Like one of the characters asked me, like, are you Muslim? I'm like, no, I'm Zoroastrian.
Mm-hmm.
And then like he put it in like in very subtle ways.
Subtle
But,
ways, right?
He was like, and I don't think he realized how much that meant to me and how much that meant to my community
I know
and my
that's right.
culture. But it was amazing. And then it was just like, he's like, yeah, it's just you. We love the way you did it.
Wow.
She'll just be you. She'll be whatever you are.
Wow.
But he didn't just say, oh, he'll just be you and then never talk about it again. He
Mhm.
totally honored it. And that's, what makes him such a legendary phenomenon.
Uh-huh.
Right? And then the second time was actually the first Hallmark movie I did was a Christmas movie. And I was the first actress of South Asian descent to ever lead a Christmas movie. I didn't know this until when I was doing
Wow.
for Hallmark. Yeah.
Didn't know that.
When I was doing press for it. So, part of me is just like, it was during the pandemic. I'm like, oh, I'll take a job. Sure. Like I don't even think of like the cultural,
ramifications of background behind
yeah,
it. Yeah.
exactly. Until people like you pointed out to me, I'm like, well, you were the first to do this. You were the first to do that. I'm like, I guess I mean, now there's so many that it doesn't,
Right.
It doesn't matter. But it was like, yeah, but there weren't that many when I was doing it. There weren't. And there weren't that many that were being featured.
Wow.
So I was the first for a lot of things. And why was I the first? I don't know. I was in the right place at the right time. Like I have no idea why.
Right.
But I'm grateful that I was able to do it. And I'm grateful that it opened the doors for many people, obviously. So grateful, But so on that the Christmas Ring was the name of the show. It was all about it was like a mystery story, and I was looking for this ring that my father gave my mother that accidentally got sold in an estate sale, and both my character's parents had passed, and the producer of that show, I mean, this was all during COVID, so it was all
Mhm.
like there were very few people being cast, and like
Right.
very select, and they were like, we need to find like your parents, and then she was like, could we just use your real parents? So like,
Wow.
so all the pictures is like,
Wow.
so I remember my girlfriends who I grew up with, my Parsi girlfriends, they were like, not only were you the first East Indian woman to be featured in a Hallmark movie, your mother was the second, because there's so many pictures of her, and she has this like crazy ring on. So it was so,
Wow.
and she's wearing a sari, like the way we
Right.
wear the Parsi style with
I
my
love
dad.
it.
And so that was so special. That was really special. And
Wow.
we lost my dad 13 years ago, so he never saw that. He saw 24 though. He was very proud of that.
I know,
But
that's
it was
right.
such a special way to memorialize.
More Elijah, yeah.
Yeah, and
That's
like,
beautiful.
yeah. So when there is room for it, um, I love it. I love putting it in. I mean, I don't think that it's not like a deal breaker for me, obviously.
No.
And my religion, my faith is something private and
Yeah.
something that I honor
Yeah.
and cherish. But it's very nice when it
It
can
is
be
nice.
presented. Yeah.
Yeah, and well, especially in that manner to
Oh yeah,
really
that was so
that's
special.
that was a 360 embrace, really.
I know, right?
And to really take it and then run with it and really make you the story, really. I mean,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
it was a role and a character, but it made you the story, which had to
And
be really great.
and they could have cast anyone. Like they didn't change my name. I think my name was like Kendra Wilson or something like that.
Uh-huh.
Like they didn't make it like her ethnicity was incidental to the
Right.
character, but they honored it in the story still.
Right. I
You
love
know,
that. I
I
love
loved
that.
it too. I loved it.
You've had a memorable roles. I'm just saying there. There was also uh geez, I saw Letter Kenny,
Oh
International Wedding
my
Day. Yes. And
god,
you played the professor
Professor
Trisha.
Trisha.
Trisha, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Um what attracted you to that role,
Okay.
and how did it differ maybe from previous characters?
Oh my god. Okay, so New Metric Media,
Okay.
who makes Letterkenny,
Okay.
also makes Children Ruin Everything,
Yeah, yeah.
which is the show I was on for the
Yep.
last 4
Yep.
years.
Yep.
So season 1, we did it. I basically went back to Canada during the pandemic so my kids could go to school, and that's
Mhm.
how my son ended up getting on the show and everything like that. So before I even start season 1 of Children Ruin Everything, I was on another movie in Canada, and the casting director
Mhm.
of Children Ruin Everything, who also casts Letterkenny, is like, hey, we want to offer you a role on Letterkenny. It's just
Okay.
like a one-off role. Never seen the show. I'd heard of
Mhm.
it. Never seen the show. But it's the same production company, right? Same
Right.
producer, New Metric
Producer, right.
Media.
Mhm.
Mark Montefiore, wonderful, wonderful guy. So I don't know anything about the role. I just know
Mhm.
that where the dates are, and the dates are after I finished the first season of Children Ruin Everything, and I was still in Canada for that time. Then I came back
Right.
home to
Right.
LA. So I was like, okay. And then I'm sitting in my trailer on lunch on my other movie, and I watch an episode of the show. I think I watched like the Valentine's Day special, and I'm like,
Mhm.
where the hell do I fit into this show? Like, I have no idea where I fit into this show. So then I was like, but I'm gonna say yes because
Right.
it's the same producer, and like, well,
Right.
on a show, I know it's a big following. I think it made
Right.
me truly Canadian when I did that. And then but the guy who plays oh god, Kay Trevor on the show, Kay Trevor
Okay.
Wilson,
Yep. Yep.
he and I went to high school together at
Oh,
this
wow.
performing arts school. Yes, so I see Trevor's in it. So then I and I'm like, oh, I haven't seen Trevor in forever. He was a little bit older than me. So
Mhm.
I get the script, and it's the International Women's Day episode, and I see
Mhm.
it's like monologue after monologue after I'm like, oh, this is a challenge, right?
Okay.
It's
Okay.
great. And I have to undress. I was like, okay, sure. I'll be on a juice diet for that. And I went up there, and then Trevor, so I got to see Trevor for the first time in decades, and he was like, oh, Professor Trisha was a character I made up when I was improvising some of the dialogue. They're like, oh, well, Professor Trisha wouldn't do that, and they just started running with
Oh,
it
wow. Oh,
for
wow.
seasons and seasons. So I didn't even know that for seasons, and I didn't realize that like this character has been talked about for the entire, I think I was in season 11, like for the entire, like I think he made it up
Run.
in season 2, like
Yeah.
8 seasons of the show.
Yeah.
They done Professor. So I was like, oh my God, this is like a big deal,
Thing. It's a
right?
big deal. Yep.
So I definitely felt pressure. But that cast is like so warm. They're like
Mm.
this, like I did it in front of like 20, like they were like, I think there was like, no, they're probably like 14 of the male series regulars were in that
Wow.
scene. And like they were all like just princes. They were just so wonderful and
Wow.
so warm and so nice. And they were like, "Do you want us to close your eyes when you undress when it's not on us?" And I was like, "No. I've lived on juice for 7 days. You can open your
Open your
eyes and
eyes.
look at my body. In fact, get them some toothpicks so they can't even blink because I'm gonna be eating a
I
hamburger.
love
And
it.
then I'm
I
gonna be
love
ordering
it.
some shitty food and Subway to my room and gorging myself on my bed.
I know that's
But
right.
they were so sweet. They were so sweet. And we shot that whole episode, my whole episode in one day.
Oh
We did
wow.
21
Wow.
yeah, it was so
Wow.
fast. And
Wow.
my take where I take off my clothes and give that speech, one
Mhm.
take.
Wow.
One take.
Look at that. Look
And
at
they were
that.
like, "You must have rehearsed that for months." I'm like, "No, I rehearsed it yesterday when I got my wardrobe." Like I didn't know what I was wearing up
Wow.
until that point, right?
Look at that.
So it was like, so that was, and then and then I did it and I still didn't realize what a big deal it was.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, like these fans started going like, everyone I talk to wants to bring it up in a podcast, and like all the fans went crazy for it. And like
Got to.
people were sending me like pins, like Professor Trisha
For sure.
pins. And
Yeah.
like,
I mean,
I was
it stood
I was,
out. I mean,
yeah.
you had to ask. I mean, that's one of those things that
Yeah, it was literally a gift. It was a gift.
it,
I had
yeah,
no
yeah,
idea. I
yeah.
had no idea.
It
And then
was
I
a
was like, "Oh,
stand up.
this makes sense for me to play this part." Like this smart, educated woman who comes in and like lovingly teaches them about, women's rights and this and that. And,
It
I
was
actually loved
great.
it. I think that the writing on that show is so smart. It
Yeah.
really is. And Jared was so kind. Like he came up to me afterwards, like, "They've been raving about you on Children. We're so happy we got you. And like, thank you so much for doing this." I'm like, "Are you kidding me? Like, such a pleasure to do it."
Yeah.
Like, so kind about it.
Yeah.
So kind.
I
Yeah.
love that. Yeah. I had to bring it up because I mean, it was just
Yeah.
something that stood out. Part of your career.
It was
But
fun. And I watched it. I'm like, this is actually good. Like, this is
yeah,
actually
no,
good.
it was
Normally,
great. I thought it was,
normally very critical of my work and I can't stand to watch it. But it's like, I was like,
that
"Oh,
was
this is
great.
like, it was fun." And it was like,
That was great.
and it
And
gave me
see,
like street cred. That's what one of my
yeah.
girlfriends said. Now you have street cred. On Letterkenny, you have
Now
street
you
cred.
ready. Now you ready.
Now you're
Now
actually
everybody
a
knows.
star.
Now everybody knows. Everybody knows
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. Totally.
I love that. So
Totally.
look, man, I mean, time is flying. But I
Yes.
do want to get in one or two more things. On the back half of this, about 10 minutes or so. But I want to ask, you know, now that we've kind of come full circle, what is it that you're working on now that maybe we haven't talked about that you'd like to share, or anything that's coming up for 2025? Any projects or anything that
Hmm.
you're working on that you can just take a few minutes to kind of spill and share with us?
Oh, there's a lot. Okay.
Okay.
So Children Ruin Everything. It's the 4th season is airing on CTV right now,
Okay.
Thursdays at 9:30. And then it's going to come to the CW in the States on November 28th.
Love it.
So we have a double premiere. It's also on Netflix Canada,
Hmm.
as well. And I believe it's on Crave. So it's like
Okay.
everywhere. So
Okay.
that's going to go right until the new year. See, it's like season 4 part 1 and season 4 part 2.
Okay.
Then right now premiering on Hallmark Plus is they made their first Christmas series,
Oh.
and it's by this wonderful writer Gina Matthews, who produced What Women Want, and like she's like just a
Mhm.
very dynamic individual, and she really created a very unique series. It's their first ever Christmas series. It's about 6 different families that live on this cul-de-sac, and it's called Holidays, and that is streaming on Hallmark Plus. It started last Tuesday, and it's 7 episodes or 8. I
Oh
can't even
wow.
remember. It's a lot, yeah. And every week one drops, and then I think it's airing on W in Canada. I
Mhm.
think it starts tomorrow. The first episode. My mom
Okay.
told me. And then next year I have a 4-movie franchise coming out called The Love Club, which was such an amazing experience. I mean, it could have been a disaster. You took 4 women who are all used to being Hallmark, like leading ladies, like all beautiful, accomplished, funny, gorgeous women. And it's 4 movies,
Mhm.
and each one gets their own movie, and you co-star in all the other movies.
Oh wow. All
Right.
right.
And so we shot it over the summer. We started shooting it in July, and we wrapped at the end of October. And it was crazy because we
Mm,
shot all 4 movies at the exact same time. Like we didn't shoot
right.
1, 2, 3, 4. Like one day we would be shooting like all 4 movies. So the
Wow.
wardrobe changes were just
Wow.
insane. But I think what I take away from that experience the most was the relationship with the 3 other actresses, Rebecca Halton, Ashley Newborough, and Janelle Williams. Janelle I'd worked with before, but the other 2 I hadn't met, and we became like sisters. Like it was
So it's not,
amazing.
but
It was
had to be
amazing.
amazing. The
It was
energy sounds like
amazing. And
amazing.
honestly, like everyone, like all the producers who see it, they're like, you can really tell you guys actually like each other.
Like
And
each
it's
other.
what
Yeah.
movies work. So
Yeah.
that I think is going to air. So it airs in February. It's called The Love Club.
Okay.
So this is the Love Club moms. So we're all moms in some way or the other. It's like a franchise. So season 1 was the Love Club just on its own. This is Love Club Moms. They'll make another one, but with a whole new cast. So I
Okay.
think that's going to air in February of 2025.
Okay.
And that's it. And that's all.
Whew.
And
That,
there's
that's
an episode of Criminal Minds coming up. There's like, all those little ones in between on Paramount Plus. And
you
I
just
also wrote a feature that I'm just in the process of rewriting that I'm really hoping we can make in the motherland in Canada.
I love that.
I mean, hopefully next year. I'm hoping.
Is that
It's
is that your
been a
next is that your next endeavor? Is you getting to the other side?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, I've been doing this for 20 years, which is
Mm-hmm.
crazy because I'm still,
Mm-hmm.
only
Right.
30.
Right.
I'm so
18.
young.
18. 25 the max. 25 the most. Right.
No, but I've just been doing it such a long time, and
Mhm.
I feel like there are stories that I want to tell.
Mhm.
And I have ideas, and I love the idea of, at first it came of like just writing something for myself.
Right.
And now it's just become about like the exercise of writing a feature film. Like it's
Mhm.
really just become about that. And like, for it's that. And then the next thing will be like, okay, how do we sell it? And then like,
Right.
how do we make it? I'm literally just taking it step by step by step, but it's been so much work. First of all, like shocking. I have so much respect for writers. I'm like, oh my God, I just show up and the word's already there. Like,
Right.
wow.
Now you're on the own. You have to do
Oh,
it.
it's consuming. It's like
Yeah.
waking up in the middle of the night, running to the computer, always.
Mhm.
And it's like and I love it because there's always notes and always ways to make it better and deeper and and more. And I love that challenge.
Right.
So it's been very rewarding and
Mm.
something that I've been able to like shoehorn in between acting gigs. And I'm
Right.
just so grateful for it because if anything, like it's an exercise in learning a new skill. But
Yeah.
yes, I think that's the next step. It's like I think I need to just start like producing and writing as well because I think that I have shit to say.
Period.
And it's
And
mine
there's
is
nothing.
more than what other people have written.
Yeah, look, that's just how it is sometimes. And it is, you're coming from a different perspective. You probably have tons of ideas, and I think that's the beauty of, uh, like you say, your culture, your travel experiences, your work experiences, and all of these ideas and probably stories that you shared with friends. That you know what, you probably sit down and you probably like, this would be a great idea. This would be a great
Yeah.
idea to expand
Yeah.
on. And I think
Yeah.
that's what we really need more of. Because I am a believer. Like sometimes I sit and say to my wife, I'm so tired of all of these remakes and these reruns of something that we've already seen.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
was
Totally.
I'm earning and yearning for something new, something creative, something that even if it's out of maybe something what I would normally like to watch, give me something. I'm just tired of all of the remakes and the reburns.
I mean, I couldn't agree with you more on the remakes and the rebirths. I mean, I
Mhm.
think some things are really worth reviving, and especially if you take a new spin on it, and some things are not.
Yeah, I just like some things are
You
just
know?
classic. Like I'm sorry, like some things are just classic. Like okay, leave that one alone. Like let's just leave. But when you
Yeah.
get into certain things, I mean, like even like Fast and Furious, like love it, great it, but like around 6, I petered
Right.
out. I was done. Like
Yeah, but
okay,
there's still money on that table, right?
yeah, but there's still money on the table, and then that's the other side.
Yeah.
Get that money while it's still sitting there. But as
Yeah.
the fan, like, dude, I tuned out like four movies ago.
Sure.
I'm not really interested. But
Totally.
I'm looking forward to anything that you're going to put out and that you're going to be bringing forward. Love your work. We're big fans
Thank you
here.
so much. Oh, I'm so happy to have done this. Thank you for inviting me onto your show.
Look, look. We had such a blast. Time flies. Before we go to though, I want to allow you to take a moment, Nazneen, to share your social media. I want to get our audience to get behind you, support your upcoming work, and follow you across social media. So if you want to take a moment, please let us know where we can find you on social media.
So you can, I mean, I think I have a bunch of social media accounts, but I'm really only on Instagram, and that is at MS Nazneen Contractor. So at Miss Nazneen Contractor. That's probably where I'm most active,
Okay.
and you can follow me there.
All right. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Get out and support. Nazneen, she's incredible. I love her energy. Just love the conversation. It's been
Yeah.
amazing Monday. I hope you all enjoyed this. And look, you can go ahead and continue to follow Two Mics Up. We are now on my new channel, Infusion TV channel, on the #1 network for positive programming, the Mogul TV Global Network. Make sure you download that app while it's free, because look, everything after a while does go up. Right now it's free. We're in 45 countries, 100 million viewable subscribers. Make sure you go ahead and download it on your Amazon TV or Roku TV device today. Don't say I didn't tell you. Just go out and do it. And look, season 7, Two Mics Up. One more episode. We're coming back next week with Peyton Ashbrook. You've seen her in Power, Ghost, Power Book 2, Ghost. You've seen her in a lot of other films, and she's going to help us close out season 7 here on Two Mics Up. So I thank you all for watching. And like we do at the end of each and every show, I'm going to leave you with a couple of things. May you all stay safe, stay blessed. Mics out.